This is a remaiden of what was a King Kong 210 that I crashed into the concrete. I got an eBay frame. It's basically a QAV 210. Moved all the guts over. Put a different camera in. This is a HS111 Sony cam. And I'm going to switch over here to first person view. It flies pretty well. The PIDs are tuned fairly okay. The P probably needs to go up a little bit. And you'll see I switch to acro here. The nose will drop. Here we go. So I do take off in horizon mode, line of sight, and then switch my glasses on, put it in acro, and then start flying. I'm pretty new to this stuff. I've been flying for, I don't know, this is maybe my 20th big quad attempt. I've got a little blade, and I first had an Eachine Racer, or you'll also see it as a Florion, I think, depending on where you get them. And it was a good starter quad. I had trouble figuring out PIDs with that quad, only because it's really strangely shaped. It's a bit of an H and has a lot of weight running laterally. The battery sits way in the back on the Eachine Racer, and you actually have to have a GoPro or something on the front to counterbalance the battery. So it was a bit of a struggle for me to figure out initially. So I bought this King Kong for about 150 bucks. It was the red one. And it actually flew really well. I put 4S on it with the standard 2-blade, and then I switched over to the snub nose, or the chopped in blades. And it flew really well. I was actually getting a little carried away trying some stunts when I crashed into a basketball court. And that was my fault. I guess what you see here is the guts are working pretty well. The overall flight is okay. Most of the weirdness you see with just general flight characteristics is me and my novice capabilities. There is a bit of a north wind blowing as well, so there's a general push of the quad in the direction I'm currently going, so now I'm turning into the wind. That does affect it a little bit, but I think the eyes are pretty well set because I didn't feel the gusts. I could feel the wind gusting on my face, especially as it was channeling through those trees, but it didn't seem to affect the quad. I did notice with the Eachine Racer that the wind would affect that significantly, and so far what I understand about PIDs is your P is getting your copter just to be straight and very steady in a standing point, and the eye is kind of the sort of counterbalance. So if something does something to it, the eye will help correct for that. So things like wind, and I did struggle with that Racer, and we do have a lot of wind where I live. The King Kong is much better. I've also had a little JJRC 130, which was again another, I guess, poor choice on my part, because it was very difficult to figure out how to do the PIDs on it. It had this funny little drop tail move every time you try to sling it around a corner and use your aileron or your roll stick. So I moved the guts out of that into a 180 millimeter frame, but I haven't gotten the camera set up on that one, so I hadn't flown it. So really this is my, I guess, 2.5 real quadcopter, since it's a new frame with the guts of the King Kong. My next steps are probably to increase the P a touch until it really does start to oscillate, just to make sure it's real crisp. I do need to bring my rates up. I was having to put a lot of stick input to do moves like this, just to swing around corners. And when I tried to do some of the acrobatic stuff, rolls and whatnot, the axis for both roll and for pitch were just a little too slow. So I'm going to crank up the rates, increase the P a bit. The eye feels, to my general knowledge, okay. And D, I just haven't gotten good enough to figure out how to do D yet. D is going to be, from what I understand, is sort of a reactionary thing that you're looking for coming out of serious moves. And right now I'm so poor at doing any acrobatics, I really couldn't tell if it was the copter or myself and my trembling, shaky fingers. I guess speaking of fingers, I do use sort of a half pinch move. I originally started doing this with my thumbs, but I was seriously shaking out of just adrenaline and fear when I first started slinging that Eachine racer around. So I saw on Rotor Riot that the sort of half pinch move, you have to adjust your strap up a bit so your hands are comfortable. But it really helped me stay steady, especially when I was nervous and excited and doing stuff like that and trying to come out of acrobatics where I couldn't necessarily see everything, and I don't trust or have trust in my maneuvers yet. So very just simple stuff like you're seeing right now is very nerve-wracking. I am doing my best to remember to breathe back by the car. I also think it's really hilarious when you see yourself or you see a friend flying FPV, and I've put some footage at the end for you to laugh at. I call it Stevie Wondering, where your head just starts to move around with the camera. I try to control it, but as soon as I get going, especially when I'm sort of getting faster here, getting more comfortable, so I'm sure my head is cocked up to the right, looking at the stars or something funny. Yeah, for some reason I like to turn left all the time, so I realized that and started to turn right for a little bit, and then I actually followed this ridge. For me, when I was starting out, I was flying in some of the fields you can see in the background, which is just straight grass with no topography, and I found that not having something to aim at made it a lot harder for me. I got some advice from the interwebs that said to, get out of horizon and angle mode as soon as you can and start flying around in acro. It's scary, but you'll learn the correct behaviors, and I totally agree with that. For anybody who's new, you definitely want to get out of angle and horizon. Use them for landing and taking off, like I'm getting ready to switch over here, then pop my glasses off and then bring it in line of sight, and I'm in horizon mode, the most steady of all the modes. So if you get yourself over into acro quickly, you'll get used to it, and you won't fight the natural gyro that's in there, and that actually causes bad behavior. So do give yourself a shot. It's fun. It's obviously adrenaline filled. And here's a little Stevie Wonder action for you guys, and fast forward. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll have more flights coming up soon.